that he intended. He intended to use that gun to hurt, cause serious bodily injury, kill. If you're one of those folks, can't prove that, there's no doubt about that, you should find him not guilty. That's the fair verdict. Thank you.
All right, state.
The state calls Detective Danielle Rodriguez.
From the belt, just like for there. If you can just push it like right here, it's just like.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be better. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can just give us 2 minutes, there's something I need to take up outside your presence. If you'll just stand in the hallway for me. All right. Everyone, please rise for the jurors. Swan.
I wasn't planning on it, Your Honor.
All right,
But
then.
I was going to elicit testimony whether one was applied for.
All right. All right. So then what we'll do, since her co-counsel is upstairs making that copy, you all can look at it before it's entered, if they decide to enter it into evidence.
So I would object to entering it into evidence, Your Honor.
Well, we're not at that point yet. So let's bring the jury in.
And can I keep Detective Henning? I may need to call him in my case in chief.
Well, when we cross that bridge, we'll come to it, okay?
Okay.
All right, you can bring the jurors in.
That's it.
All right, state, call your witness.
The state calls Detective Danielle Rodriguez.
All right, can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, Your Honor.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
Danielle Rodriguez.
All right, you may proceed.
Hi, Detective Rodriguez. Would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes. Hello. My name is Danielle Rodriguez. I've been a police officer for approximately 16 years. And a detective for about 3 years.
And are you a certified peace officer?
Yes, I am.
Are you employed with the San Antonio Police Department?
Yes, I am.
Is that the only law enforcement agency that you've been employed by?
No, I worked with the Corpus Christi Police Department for a little over 4 years.
And can you describe to the jury the training that you undergo to become a law enforcement officer?
It's approximately 7 months of training, penal code, rules, laws of our department, and then physical application as far as on the job training.
And when you say on the job training, does that include you going with a field training officer?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and about how long do you do that?
3.5 months.
Okay. And what is your current title with SAPD?
Detective investigator,
And what unit are you with?
the homicide unit.
And what type of offenses does the homicide unit investigate?
The portion where I work, we investigate aggravated assault, deadly weapon, injury to elderly, injury to disabled, harassments, assaults.
And you said you've been with that department since when?
I've been with the homicide unit since February of 2022.
Okay. And what, did you have any previous assignments before that?
Was patrol,
Okay.
so that was my first unit.
And were you employed with the San Antonio Police Department on June 4th of 2022?
Yes, I was.
What shift were you working on that date?
My duty hours are 7:45 a.m. to 5:45 p.m.
And is that in you had the same title and assignment as detective with homicide?
Yes.
Okay. And were you assigned to do a follow-up investigation on case number SAPD 2211-8362?
Yes, I was.
And did you have a partner or were you working alone on that case?
I was with a partner,
And who was that?
Detective Carlos Garcia.
Okay. And can you tell us how you received that case?
My sergeant assigned me this case and mentioned that several incidents had happened the day prior, and he asked me to go out there to see if there was some immediate follow-up that needed to happen.
Okay. And did you write a report under that case number?
Yes, I did.
And would it help you if you had a copy to refresh your memory?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Okay, and so when you were assigned the case under SAPD 2211-8362, did you identify a key witness that needed to be interviewed?
Yes.
And who was that?
Jesse Isagiri?
And were you able to conduct an interview with him?
Yes.
And where was that interview conducted?
In the lobby of the apartment complex where he resided.
And was that apartment complex located at 1130 Broadway, San Antonio, Texas, 78215?
Yes.
And what type of location is that?
It's an apartment complex.
And is that located in Bexar County, Texas?
Yes.
Okay. And was there another complainant identified?
Yes.
And who is that?
Judge, I'm going to object.
What's your objection?
The extraneous evidence we discussed earlier.
All right, that'll be,
Just my response is it's the other complainant on the indictment on count 2.
all right, that objection will be overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Did Jesse have a son?
Yes.
Okay, and what was his son's name?
Michael Isagiri?
And is that the additional, complainant that you had identified?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember on or about what day you had conducted that interview with him?
That was on June 4th, 2022.
Okay, and then after you were able to conduct an interview with him, did you conduct an examination of the apartment complex itself, the entire complex?
Yes.
Okay, and what were you looking for particularly?
Any evidence of a shooting, bullet projectiles, any evidence of a shooting.
Okay, and so what area specifically were you searching at that time after speaking with Jesse Izagita?
The pool, the common area. And then over to an additional apartment on the third floor.
Okay. Yeah, and so while you were conducting your interview with Jesse Izagita, how would you describe, was it like an active scene or how would you describe the scene?
Well, initially it was supposed to be just a follow-up investigation. This incident happened the day before, but then it quickly turned into an active investigation where we had to take immediate action.
And what led to the necessity to take immediate action?
While we were outside looking for evidence, we were already made aware of the apartment where the defendant had taken actions the day before. So the victim and I saw the defendant come out onto the balcony. The victim identified him, that's the guy from yesterday. And then we observed him get into a prone position on the ground. And there was a lot of people at the pool. And then we were.
Judge, may I approach?
Yes.
Okay, and so after you observed the defendant in the prone position, what happened?
My partner and I felt like we needed to make contact.
And so ultimately, did you know the apartment complex that the complaint was made against?
Yes,
The apartment number, excuse me.
yes,
Or what apartment number was that?
251.
And so, what did you do at that time?
Myself and Detective Garcia made our way to that apartment.
Okay. And, once at the apartment, what did you do?
Oh, we knocked at the door. We were there for a while. And eventually, the defendant opened the door.
And, do you see the person that opened the door in court today?
Yes, I do.
Would you point to him and identify him by an article of clothing?
Blue shirt and colored tie.
Let the record reflect this witness has identified the defendant, Christopher Morrison. And so once you make contact with him, what did you learn on the scene?
That he had been drinking. He was upset, highly emotional. And at that point, he was being evaluated based on our knowledge from the day before for being a danger to himself and others.
Okay. And ultimately, through your investigation, did you learn that he owned a weapon consistent with what was reported to you?
Yes.
Okay, and so based on that, what did you do?
Well, we detained him and then we made some phone calls and determined that we are going to have a search warrant secured for the apartment for potential weapons still inside.
Okay. And who applied for that search warrant?
Detective Henning, Walter Henning.
Okay. And as a result of the search, or so you ultimately entered apartment 251.
Yes.
Okay. And under what authority did you enter the apartment?
We entered the apartment to get the defendant's shoes originally.
Was that, well, I'm talking about, so you entered the apartment under the authority of the search warrant, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and once you were in the location, what was found?
A weapon that possibly was used the day prior.
Okay. And was that weapon seized?
Yes.
Okay, and where was it put?
In the property.
And based on everything that you learned during your investigation, what was the result of your investigation?
We determined that the criminal offense of aggravated assault with deadly weapon happened the day prior.
Okay, and so based on that, did you obtain an arrest warrant for the defendant?
Yes.
And was the weapon sent to the Bexar County Crime Lab?
Yes.
Okay, and are you the one that sent it there?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
I'm gonna tender some exhibits to defense for inspection prior to approaching. I'm gonna share you some photographs if you could take a look at them just yourself. Have you, do you recognize these photos?
Yes, I do.
And, were these taken at the same time that you were at the offense location?
Yes.
And are they a fair and accurate depiction of the scene as you observed it on the 24th of 2022?
Yes.
And to your knowledge, have they been altered in any way?
No.
And just to be clear, I'm referring to States Exhibit 1 through 7 inclusive. At this time, the state moves to enter States 1 through 7 inclusive.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, States Exhibits 1 through 7 is admitted without objection.
And published.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I need to approach for this.
Yes.
Okay, Detective, I'm showing you what's been entered into evidence as States Exhibit number 1. Can you please tell me what that is?
The defendant's apartment number?
And is that the same apartment that you made contact with the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. And States Exhibit number 2, what is that?
That's me inside of the apartment.
Okay. States Exhibit number 3,
That is a view from the apartment into the common area.
when you say a view from the apartment, whose apartment do you mean?
The defendant's.
Okay. And so I guess, and what are you able to see at the bottom of this photo?
The pool.
States Exhibit number 4,
The common area and then the apartment across the ways that was damaged.
and States Exhibit number 5,
A closer picture of the apartment that was damaged.
States Exhibit number 6,
The weapon that was used,
and States Exhibit number 7.
the same weapon used.
Pull it from the ring.
From the ring?
Yes.
Oh. Yeah, I'll just. What was the significance of the? Well. let me- Okay, and so after you secured the arrest warrant, what happened after that?
The defendant was arrested.
Okay,
The arrest warrant, search warrant.
no, the arrest.
Okay.
No, I passed the witness, Your Honor.
Defense?
Good afternoon, Detective Rodriguez. So you and I, we spoke this morning for a little bit, is that right?
Yes, sir.
At a prior hearing?
Correct.
Okay. And I just want to clarify some things, make sure that I understand things correctly. So you and your partner, was it Detective Garcia,
Yes,
arrive at the Riviera Luxury Apartments? Is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay, and when you arrive, it becomes an active situation because you observe, correct?
Yes,
You observe Mr. Morrison getting into a prone position.
correct.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that was your observation.
Yes,
Okay. And did you write about that in your prosecution guide? And that's a yes or no question. It's a yes or no question. Did you write about it in your prosecution guide?
I'm looking.
If you need to refresh your recollection, you can just say, do you need to refresh your recollection by looking at your prosecution guide?
Yes, I do.
Okay, can you refresh your recollection? Go ahead and do that.
Oh, yes, I did speak about it in my prosecution guide.
That you observed Mr. Morrison in a prone position.
Mimicking the same actions as the day before.
And where did you see that? May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes. All right, if you all, excuse me, if you all are going to speak to each other, you'll have to speak loud enough for the
Just
court
go
reporter
ahead.
to hear.
Okay.
Okay, and at that point, it became an active scene, correct?
Yes,
And then you responded to his apartment, correct?
correct.
Okay, and between then, did you call Detective Henning and let him know what was going on?
No,
Okay. Was that before or after you? Because you interviewed the complaining witness, correct? And that was Jesse Izaguirre. Is that right?
yes, sir.
Okay. And so, what you observed, was that before or after you interviewed the complainant?
It was after.
Okay. So after you interviewed the complainant, that's when you observed Mr. Morrison. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And then you responded to that apartment, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And before you responded to the apartment, did you get a search warrant?
No,
Okay, so you responded to the apartment before you got the search warrant, correct?
correct.
Okay. And then you guys spoke to Mr. Morrison, right?
Yes.
And you entered the apartment without a warrant, correct?
Yes.
For him to get his shoes.
Correct.
Okay, but you did not have a warrant when you went inside his apartment the first time.
Correct.
Okay. And then after you left the apartment, you at that point, is that when you called the detective to get a search warrant?
Yes.
Okay, so and then you called the detective and it was you speaking to Detective Henning, correct?
Not initially, no.
Who were you speaking to?
Detective Garcia made the initial call to start the warrant. And I provided additional information.
You provided additional information.
Yeah.
And when you provided that information, did you summarize the conversation that you had with Jesse Zagide?
Yes.
Do you think you summarized that conversation accurately?
I believe I did.
You made some mistakes though, correct?
I did.
Okay. One of the mistakes that you made was that you said in your affidavit that he described bullets hitting the water. And he never said that in that conversation to you, did he?
Those exact words, no.
Okay. He did not say that. He did not use those exact words. Okay. You said that he told you that it sounded like a clap and he clapped his hands, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that he could not tell where it was coming from, right?
Yes.
Okay. And he said that the splashes were 2 or 3 feet away from him, correct?
Correct.
And that he thought that it was a bird diving into the water, right? The first splash was a bird diving into the water.
Yes.
And that the second splash he thought was his son splashing him.
Correct.
Okay. Or splashing nearby him, correct?
Yes.
Okay. You all searched the pool, correct?
Yes.
You searched the filter of the pool, correct?
Correct.
Did you find any BBs?
No.
Did you find any bullet fragments?
No.
Did you find any foreign objects that you guys documented?
No.
Did you take pictures of the filter to show that you searched it?
I don't believe there was photos taken. No.
I couldn't hear that. I'm sorry, I could not hear you.
I don't believe there was photos taken. No.
Okay. But you searched the pool, correct?
Correct.
And you did not find any BBs, right?
Correct.
Okay, you did not find any bullets, right?
Correct.
Okay, you found no foreign objects in that search of the pool, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you are a detective, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you described Mr. Morrison as emotional, right?
Yes.
He went with you willingly, right? Did you have to use force against him?
I didn't have to have used force. No.
Okay. And obviously nobody wants to go with the police officers, but he didn't offer any kind of resistance, correct?
Correct.
And he was very upset. Is that right?
That is correct.
He talked to you about his military service,
Talked to my partner about it. Yeah, I was
and
there.
you're standing right there.
I was present. Yes.
In the search warrant affidavit, you describe you say that. So, how many times did you talk to Jesse Izagirre?
Talked to him one time.
You spoke to him one time,
Yes.
and that one time was captured on your body cam, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then after that, you spoke to him a second time, correct?
I talked to him. No, I spoke with him one time.
You only spoke to him one time.
Yes.
Okay. How did you identify him,
Identify.
Mr. Morrison? How did you have the complaining witness identified?
We were outside, or we were looking for evidence. Mr. Morrison was out on his balcony. And Jesse pointed and said, "That's him from yesterday." And for a double confirmation, I had a single photo of Mr. Morrison. So I quickly showed Jesse, "Is this him?" He says, "Yes." And then we went to the apartment.
So it wasn't just with a photograph.
No.
Okay. And in your search warrant affidavit, you put a photographic lineup, correct?
I didn't put a photographic lineup.
You told Detective Henning that it was a photographic lineup that you used to identify.
The exact verbiage that I told him. I'm
So-
not I mean, I
And
I relayed a
it's a
sequence
it's a
of
yes or no
meeting.
question.
So you all can't talk over each other. So ask your question, she'll answer it. If you don't feel that she's answered it, then you raise an objection. If objections are made, just stop talking and I'll make a ruling on it. So ask your next question.
Did you tell Detective Henning that it was a photographic lineup that was used to identify Mr. Morrison?
do not recall the exact verbiage, but a photographic lineup was not presented, so I wouldn't have said photographic lineup.
You agree with me that swearing out an affidavit is a serious thing?
Yes.
Detective Henning is a truthful person.
Yes.
Okay, and the affidavit that you saw shows that Detective Henning swore that somebody had told him that it was a photographic lineup that was used to identify Mr. Morrison. You're aware of that?
Yes.
Okay, and that's not true,
No, a photographic lineup was not presented.
but that is what's present in the affidavit.
Correct.
So a false statement is in that affidavit.
Yes.
Did you ever?
Have parties approach? All right, defense, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. So after 2.5 years, Detective Rodriguez, have you guys done any follow-up investigation after Mr. Morrison's arrest?
No,
Okay, and you didn't get an arrest warrant for him that day, correct?
correct,
You got an arrest warrant for him some days later, correct?
correct.
Okay, and he went with you. You didn't take him to the Bexar County Jail. You took him somewhere else, right?
The day that we made contact with them?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. You took him to the VA hospital, is that right?
Yeah, an officer did, yes.
Okay, so another police officer took him to the VA hospital.
Correct.
And you've watched the different Coban videos as part of your investigation, is that right?
Yes.
And you've
That's it.
watched the statements that Chris made, right?
Yes.
Okay, at one point he says, I didn't know what the
I'm
big
gonna-
deal was.
I'm gonna object to the statement coming in through defense.
Sustained.
Did you on June 9th, 2022, review a Coban? Where Christopher's talking to Officer Ashby?
Yes.
Okay. What did he say?
You mean to read it for my prosecution guide?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question. Could you repeat it?
What did Mr. Morrison say to Officer Ashby as you reviewed it on June 9th, 2022?
Christopher states to Officer Ashby when talking about the day of the incident, I don't know. I thought, what's a big deal? It's a BB gun.
And you never found any BBs in the pool, correct?
The day after the incident, no.
Or at any point, right?
Yeah, correct.
You never went back and looked after that, right?
No,
No residents called you and said that there was BBs found in the pool or anything like that?
no,
Department management never contacted you and said they'd found the BBs in the pool, correct? Nobody. So you really don't even know if those splashes were caused by the BBs, correct?
I don't know.
You don't know that, do you? Okay, and you have been investigating this for 2.5 years, right? If anybody would know if those splashes were caused by the BBs, it would be you, right?
Oh, yes.
And you do not know if those splashes were caused by the BBs, do you? Your Honor, I have no further questions. I'll pass the witness.
All right, state.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, is this witness excused?
From the state, yes.
I may need her later, Your Honor.
All right, you need to make sure that you're available. You may step down. Call your next witness.
State calls Jesse Itzagide.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can lower your hand, state your name for the record.
Jesse Aguirre.
State.
Do you prefer to be addressed as Mr. Sergeant?
Oh, you call me just Mr. Aguirre, sir.
Mr. Itzagire, how are you currently employed?
I'm with the San Antonio Police Department.
And what is your role within the San Antonio Police Department?
I'm a supervisor with the San Antonio Police Department. I'm currently assigned to the Special Victims Unit, and I currently oversee the human trafficking detail.
On June 3rd, 2022, were you employed with the San Antonio Police Department?
Yes, yes, sir.
In what capacity?
I was a supervisor at the time. I've been a supervisor with the department since 2017.
And where did you live on June 3rd of 2022?
Oh, I lived at an apartment on Broadway. I don't remember the address.
Do you remember the name of the apartment?
The Rivera on Broadway.
Did you live there alone?
Yes,
Do you have a son?
I do. Yes, he's 5 now. He was 3 at the time.
What is your son's name?
Michael J. Isaguirre.
Do you share custody of your son with someone else?
Yes, with his mom.
So on June 3rd of 2022, did you have custody of Michael?
Yes.
And at about 7:45 that evening, what did you and Michael do, if you recall?
Oh, we decided to go swimming at the swimming pool that day.
Now, did you decide or did Michael decide? And you gave him what he wanted?
He wanted to go swimming that day, and of course, being his dad, I was like, go to the pool. So we went to the pool.
Was there anyone else at the pool?
No, it was completely empty that day.
And if you recall, approximately what time did you arrive?
Ooh, with a few minutes right after 7:45. I mean, we changed. We went down there. I had to think around 7:47 maybe.
Now, at a certain point, did you perceive an unusual phenomenon?
Yes.
What was that phenomenon?
While Mikey and I were swimming in the pool, I started to hear splashing that was occurring around us. So my son, when he swims, he has a life vest on, right? So of course he's swimming around making noise, and he's behind me. Well, the splashes I heard came from behind me. And what I mean by that is I'm facing my son and he's swimming, and I hear the splashes coming from behind me. And there was nobody in the pool. So when I turned around to see what it was, I started to become suspicious as to what exactly was causing that noise to happen.
If you recall, approximately how many splashes did you hear before you turned around?
One. It was one.
And can you describe the quality of that splash to the jury?
Sure. It sounded like an object penetrated into the water. So if I had to recreate the sound, it would have sounded like it was loud. It was very audible.
When you turned around, what, if anything, did you see?
I didn't see anything, sir.
After you turned around, did you hear anything else?
I heard another splash. So when I turned around, my son is behind me, and I heard another splash hit like in arm's length right in front of me, and I saw the water spray up like that.
How high did the water spray up?
I mean, no further than over my head.
At this point, what did you think was happening?
I didn't know what was happening. I began to kind of look around to see like was something falling in the water. I noticed that on the ledge of the apartment complex, so the swimming pool sits at the center of the apartment complex. So you're surrounded by all 4 buildings. I saw a bunch of birds fly overhead, and I at that point I thought, did a bird die and fall into the water? So as I'm looking to see if there was a dead bird in the water, I heard another splash on this side of me come up.
And approximately how close to you was that third splash?
Oh, I mean, same thing, arm's length.
Now, did you see what caused that splash?
No, I did not see what caused it.
After you heard this third splash, what did you do or what happened?
So after I heard that third splash, I put Mikey again. He was still behind me. I could hear him swimming, and I got him out of the pool. We walked out of the pool, and I began to kind of scan the area to see like, where's this coming from? Where's the splash coming from?
And were you able to see what was causing these splashes at that point?
No, I wasn't able to see yet.
So after you got yourself and Mikey out of the pool, what did you do?
While I was scanning the area, I began to audibly hear what I believe to be somebody was manipulating a hand or a firearm. And I know that sound because of my experience as a police officer. It's a very distinct sound. It sounds like, and that's exactly what I heard. When I heard that, I immediately told my son to get behind at the pool area. When you walk into the pool area, there's these big spherical cement blocks. I told him to stand behind there, and I started looking more. And that was when I first noticed the individual inside of his apartment on a prone down position in his apartment complex.
Now, I'd like to go back a little bit. After this first splash that you perceived, how would you characterize your emotional state?
On alert. I was definitely on alert at that point.
Were you afraid at this point?
Yes, I would say I was afraid. I was afraid because I had no idea what was happening.
What was the level of your fear, if you can quantify it?
Like on a scale of 1 to 10?
With 10 being the most fear that you've ever felt and 1 being the least.
I would say a 10. I mean, I had my son with me, so not only was I afraid for myself, I was more afraid even for him.
After the second splash, how did you feel?
After the second splash, knowing like I don't know what's going on and I have no idea what's creating this splash, same thing. I still felt the same fear.
And after the third splash?
Same fear.
And after getting out of the pool and hearing what you believe to be the sound of someone racking a weapon?
Still same fear, sir.
Now, once you got your son behind a pillar, what did you do?
At that point, and after I heard the manipulation of the firearm, and I started scanning, when I observed him, I told Mikey again, like, don't move, stay right there. And just out of habit, when I saw him, and as I saw I saw that he was behind what looked like it looked like a long arm rifle, because I could see it extending from inside of his apartment through the blinds. And as soon as I saw that, just habit, I reached for my hip thinking I had my firearm on me, but I didn't. I mean, I just had the stuff we went to the pool with. When I did that, he saw me, and I always remember when he made eye contact with me because his eyes became really big, like he was surprised that I saw him. He bear crawled over to the sliding glass door. He closed it, and at that point, I took that opportunity to retreat with Mikey.
Now, where were you standing in relation to this balcony?
So I'm obviously I'm at ground level where the swimming pool is at, and so I'm pretty much like maybe 1 or 2 degrees cantered from where he was at his apartment complex, and I believe he was on the 3rd floor.
Were there any obstructions between you and this balcony?
No. So the balcony extends about 4 feet from the apartment where the ledge is at, and there's railings there, but you can look clearly right through everybody's balcony there. Especially if they have their blinds open or anything like that, you can look into somebody's apartment.
Were the blinds open in this instance on that apartment?
No. So they were only separated at the point where the firearm was sticking out.
And were you able to see the person in that complex?
Yes.
And do you see that person in this court today?
Yes, sir.
Would you identify that person by where they are sitting in an article of clothing, please?
Yeah, yes, sir. He's wearing a baby blue shirt with a pink and blue tie.
The record reflects Mr. Itzagire has identified the defendant, Mr. Morrison. Now, how many shots total did you perceive?
If I had to count, maybe 4.
All right, so far, if I remember correctly, you've described 3 in the pool. What was the 4th?
So I audibly heard a glass shatter, and which I later found out and discovered that somebody's window on their balcony had been shot out.
Now, did you see anyone else on any of the other balconies?
No, it's strange that there's normally people at the pool all the time. It was just one day where there's literally nobody outside.
Where was this balcony in relation to the balcony on which you saw the defendant?
So it would have been directly behind me, and it would have, if his apartment was kind of on the 3rd floor, top left corner, it would have been at the center of the complex.
So was it directly in front of his balcony or was it at an angle?
No, it was at an angle. It might have been 2 or 3 to the left of his apartment. If he's facing out, it would have been 2 or 3 to the left.
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, is your gig with SAPD your only job?
Yes, I only work with the San Antonio Police Department. Yeah.
But do you act as a courtesy officer anywhere else?
No, not any longer. No.
On June 3rd, 2022, did you?
On June 3rd, yes, I was still the courtesy officer at that time. Yes.
Courtesy officer for whom or for what?
So because of my employment as a police officer, oftentimes an apartment complex will hire a police officer to provide on-site security there. And usually that's compensated in either a discounted rent or they'll actually pay you. So I was employed as a courtesy officer there at the time. But that compensation comes from the actual apartment that will hire you. It's not compensation from the city of San Antonio.
And what were your responsibilities as a courtesy officer for this complex?
Generally making rounds, patrolling the area, ensuring that any type of trespassers or people who don't live in the area or asked to leave. I would frequently get calls for people playing their TVs too loud, music's too loud. If anything ever rose to the level where in my off-duty capacity, I was unable to respond, I would then notify 911 and have additional officers show up.
Now, after June 3rd of 2022, did you see Christopher Morrison at the complex afterwards?
After June 3rd, the only, I believe it was the following day when the detectives came out to speak with me.
And in what capacity did you see Mr. Morrison?
He actually walked outside onto his balcony. He was smoking a cigarette.
And did he see you seeing him?
No, I don't believe so.
What did you do when you saw Mr. Morrison on the balcony on June 4th?
Oh, I notified the 2 detectives that came out to take my statement.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Gunner, may I approach?
Yes. No.
Good afternoon, officer. It's
Hello, sir.
Izagide, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's how you say your name, Izagide?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to mispronounce it. Okay. Good afternoon, sir. I just have some questions for you. So this happened June 3rd, 2022, correct?
Correct.
And you spoke to the police, to Detective Rodriguez and Garcia on June 4th, 2022.
The following morning and afternoon, yes.
Okay, you did, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you described to this jury that on a scale of 1 to 10, you were a 10, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And on that scale of 1 to 10, you're also a courtesy officer at the Rivera. Is it Rivera or Riviera? Riviera?
Oh, no, I think it's just Rivera.
Rivera
Yes, sir.
luxury apartments, right?
Correct.
What do you get as a, what are the benefits of being a courtesy officer?
It's just the discounted rent.
You get a discount in rent, and then you have additional responsibilities, right?
Correct.
And you're kind of, I don't mean to denigrate, but like more than a security guard, but you're there to help provide security for the complex, correct?
So anytime we work in any off-duty employment, I still have all the authority available to me as a police officer. And what that means is I can still effect an arrest. I still have all the same authorities as a police officer. And I still have to abide by the rules and regs that the department offers, as well as what the law allows me to do. So no, it would be more than a security officer, yes.
Thank you for correcting. So you're more than you're actually, and you're right. A police officer is a police officer 24 hours a day, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so if an incident were to happen right now, you wouldn't be a witness testifying in the case. You would become a police officer and keep the peace in whatever means became necessary, right?
Correct.
Okay. And that was as you were on June 3rd of 2022, right? You were a police officer on June 3rd, 2022,
Yes.
while
yes,
you were swimming in the pool with your son.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned that you were on a scale of 1 to 10, you were a 10, right?
Correct.
Okay. And you called 911.
Yes, I did.
You did call 911?
I did. Yes, sir.
When did you do that?
After we left the pool.
You left the pool and you called 911.
Correct.
Okay. And did they send police officers out?
Well, that I believe they did, but they never contacted me.
They never contacted you.
Correct.
Okay, so you did not have any contact with the police.
Not until later that evening.
And you're the most scared you've ever been.
Correct.
Okay. And the next day you speak to the police, right?
No, they called me that night. They called me. They didn't actually come to my apartment, but they did call me. And I actually had my statement. I actually provided my statement to the detectives the following morning.
So the following morning, and so as far as you know, you've been the most scared you've ever been, but nobody's made any arrests, right?
No, I don't believe there was any arrest at that time.
And nobody's really talked to you to interview you about what happened, right?
Correct.
Okay. And at that point, would you agree with me that your recollection on June 4th of 2022 is better about what happened on June 3rd of 2022 than it is December of 2024?
Possibly.
Okay. But it is normal, after 2.5 years for memories to change or memories to fade. You understand that, right?
Well, in my experience, sir, I also know that memories can actually improve over time.
So it's your testimony right now that your memory improves over time.
No, I said that memory can improve over time.
Okay. Do you think your memory has improved over time?
I believe it hasn't diminished.
Would you have any reason not to have told everything you wanted to tell to the police on June 4th of 2022?
Oh, no, sir.
Have you reviewed the statement that you made to Detective Rodriguez on June 4th of 2022?
Yes.
Have you watched that statement?
Yes, sir, I have.
When you watch that statement, you'd agree with me that you don't describe 4 impacts in the water, correct? Or 3 impacts in the water, correct?
No, I believe I did describe 3 impacts in the water.
Your Honor, if I could approach.
If you're, if you're saying that it's not there, then hold that portion. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna have you all step outside. You've heard some evidence in this case. You're not allowed to discuss that evidence that you've heard amongst yourself or with anyone else. You're not allowed to begin your deliberations. I'll let you know when it's time to start deliberating. And so I'll give you all we'll come back at 3:40. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors.
Thank you, Your Honor. So Officer Sergeant Izagide, I played Defendant's Exhibit 1 for you, is that right?
Correct.
And that was a fair and accurate representation of your statement to the police the day after, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you'd agree with me, your testimony has changed somewhat since then, since June 4th of 2022?
In which way, sir?
Did you mention that this was the most scared you had ever been to the police that day?
Correct.
You did mention that to them?
That, are you asking me how I felt that day?
I'm asking you, did you tell the police, did you tell Detective Rodriguez, Detective Garcia, on June 4th of 2022 that this was the most scared you had ever been?
Oh, no, I did not use those words to them.
Did you ever use the word scared at all?
No, sir.
You ever use the words afraid?
No, sir.
Okay, so the first time, and did you ever write a report saying that this was the most scared you had ever been?
No, I wouldn't write a report on that incident.
So, so that's different, correct? Than what you said on June 4th of 2022.
So maybe I'm not understanding. Is it different because I didn't say it? It doesn't mean that that's not how I felt.
Right, but you didn't tell Detective Rodriguez or Detective Garcia on June 4th of 2022 that that was the most scared you'd ever been. You never said that, correct?
Objection, Your Honor. If Mr. Locke wants to impeach the witness with a prior inconsistent statement, that's fine. But this is impeachment with a prior inconsistent non-statement. That doesn't make any sense to me, Your Honor.
All right, the objection is sustained.
Did you tell that to them?
Oh, no, sir.
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, the question has been asked and the question has been answered. Counsel, move on to your next question.
Thank you, Your Honor. In your statement, and you were being truthful with Detective Rodriguez and Detective Garcia, correct?
Yes.
Do you remember what time you said that this happened on that day?
I believe I said we got down to the pool about 7:15.
Okay. And how did you describe the first splash?
It sounded like something hit the water and caused it to fly up.
And you thought it was a bird, correct?
Well, initially, well, I didn't know what, no, I don't know what the first splash was. I didn't know what.
I'm asking you what you said on June 4th of 2022.
Yes, I did not know what hit the water the first time. Not the first time.
You thought it was a bird.
It wasn't until I looked up and I saw the birds. That was after the second splash.
And you'd agree with me, you're familiar with BBs, right?
Somewhat, yes.
BBs are small objects,
Correct.
very small objects.
Correct.
And you know, as you could say something as small as a BB, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But you thought that what landed in the pool might have been a bird, correct?
The only reason I thought it was a bird was because when
I'm just asking yes or no. Did you think it might have been a bird?
I can't answer that with just a yes or no.
Okay, I'm gonna. If I could approach the witness, Your Honor.
Yes. And state, you may move around the well as well to see what the witness is being shown.
Obliged, Your Honor.
Let's get the timestamp.
Although, Your Honor, if we can't hear the statement with which he's being confronted, moving around the well doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, it does. You can see what part of the video, because there's a video as well as statement. That's my understanding. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So if you want to see that, you're more than welcome to.
Just gonna ask you to review this.
No. And if you will, for the record, state where the time step is so that the state will know where the time stamp is, please.
We're starting at 13:59:12, Your Honor. You thought it was a bird.
That's not what I said right there, sir.
You looked up? You didn't know what it was?
No, that part of the recording where I'm giving my statement, I said that that was the first time I heard the splash. And in my peripheral vision, I saw the water fly up.
You described the splash as being about 3.5 feet away from you.
Yeah, yes, sir. Arms length. Yes, sir.
That's a little bit further than arm's length. Typically.
I was being approximate. I didn't have a measuring tape with me.
And then the second time you thought it was Mikey splashing. Correct?
Correct.
And you thought that it hit the water and you thought it was him splashing, correct?
Oh, when I heard the second one hit the water, because it sounded like it hit behind me. Yes, I thought it was Mikey splashing.
So then at some point you go back up to your apartment, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you go back up to your apartment, that's when it sort of clicks that somebody may have been that there may have been a pellet gun or a BB gun or something going on, correct?
No, sir. It was when I heard him manipulating the
The
weapon. Yes,
Okay.
that was when I knew.
Okay. And again, nobody ever found any BBs in this swimming pool, correct?
Oh, not that I was aware of. No, sir.
You were the courtesy officer there, right?
Correct, but I wouldn't have conducted the investigation.
No, that's not what I'm asking. But people would come up to you and say, they could come up to you and say, hey, remember that thing that happened? That this is what we found, right?
Possibly.
Mr. Morrison never spoke to you?
Oh no, sir. I had never met him before, sir.
Okay. And when you made eye contact with you, he did not speak to you.
No, sir.
And he did not yell at you, right?
No.
Okay. He did not verbally say anything to you at all, right?
No, sir.
He didn't threaten you in any way, correct?
Oh, if you mean by threaten me by telling me a threat, no, his actions were threatening, yes.
So at some point you think to yourself, what's he doing out there? Was he really shooting at us? Right? You make that statement, correct?
Oh, when I'm talking to Detective Rodriguez?
Yes.
Yo, yes,
Okay. So you ask yourself, was he really shooting at us?
yes.
You did not. That was a question that you asked Detective Rodriguez.
No, it wasn't a question I asked Detective Rodriguez. It was just a statement.
It was a thought that you had to yourself that you were articulating to Detective Rodriguez,
Correct.
right? So you were thinking to yourself, was he really shooting at us? Right?
Yes.
And that's when, according to the statement you made to Detective Rodriguez, that's when you got the call from apartment 303 that their sliding glass door had been shot or had shattered.
Correct. Yes, it was after I'd already gone. And when we were already in the elevator heading up back to my apartment. Yes.
And that's when it clicked for you, correct? That's what you tell Detective Rodriguez. After you found out about the shattered sliding glass door.
So no, sir. So when I'm saying that, in the moment is when I'm essentially, so it's really hard for me to describe this because even though was just a dad at the pool with his kid,
I'm just asking what you told Detective Rodriguez.
no, I know, and am I allowed to explain myself?
No, not, they will get to redirect you. Okay,
It's hard for me to answer your question, sir, if I can't explain myself.
so did you or did you not tell Detective Rodriguez that after you got the call about the sliding glass door, that was when you believed that he had been shooting at you?
So to answer the question, if you want me to just say yes to that, it's based on just what I said, then yes,
Okay, so we reviewed the videotape.
correct,
What you said on June 4th, 2022.
correct.
And in that statement, right, you said after you got the call about 3:03, that's when you realized, or that's when you believed, that he had been shooting at you.
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
So Detective Rodriguez, you don't know what caused those splashes, do you?
I'm sorry, did you call him Detective Rodriguez?
I apologize. I sure did. Sergeant Izaguirre,
Yes.
you don't know what caused those splashes, do you?
Initially at the beginning, no.
You still don't know.
Again, it's hard for me to answer that question if I can't explain myself.
Okay, so yes or no question. Do you know what caused those splashes?
I can't give you a yes or no answer to that.
Okay, so
Because of my background in law enforcement and my training and experience that I have, I cannot say yes or no to that question.
you either know something or you don't. Correct?
Then I know I was being shot at.
But you don't know what caused those splashes.
Projectiles.
It could have been something that fell into the pool, right?
No, because when I examined the pool area, there was nothing in the pool.
So it could have been a ricochet.
Objection, speculation.
All right, if you can answer the question.
It could have been a ricochet.
Possibly.
Okay, you don't know, right?
It's just a possibility.
Okay. And it could have been, and when you talked to Detective Rodriguez, you told her you didn't know where the sounds were coming from.
No, because of how the pool is situated.
Right. All the echoing,
Correct.
right? You could hear the noise, but you couldn't tell where it was coming from.
Correct.
And the San Antonio police, do they save 911 calls? Are those calls recorded?
The calls are recorded, yes.
And when you call 911, especially as an officer, right? Those are given priority calls, correct?
If a person has been shot, yes.
Okay, well, certainly if anybody's been shot, that's a priority call, correct? Okay. If a police officer says, I've been shot at, right? That's a priority call.
It should be labeled as such, yes.
Those calls are saved, correct?
They,
Are they recorded?
they are recorded, yes. Are they saved? Yes.
They're recorded and saved.
Yes.
Okay. And Detective Rodriguez, is she a competent detective in your opinion?
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Do you know Detective Rodriguez?
Oh, I mean, she's on the police department, yes, of course.
Have you talked to her in any other capacity other than this case?
Just in passing.
Okay. Do San Antonio police, and you're close to a detective. Are you above detective or I don't know?
I supervise detectives, yeah.
You supervise detectives.
Correct.
Okay. In your opinion, does the San Antonio Police Department detective know how to get 911 calls?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
So, Your Honor, he said that he called 911. I don't believe the state has a 911 call.
You need to ask the question. The objection has been sustained. And I'm sorry, state,
I'm sorry.
all right.
So you called 911, correct?
Yes, sir.
That call should have been preserved.
So I'm not the custodian of records when it comes to the 911 calls, but there is a preservation process, yes, that the dispatch office should have.
And if you're calling 911 as a police officer, in the most fear you have ever been in, reporting that you've been shot at, the police response on that is going to be significant.
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
In your training and experience, do you know how the San Antonio Police Department responds?
Keep going.
Do you know how the San Antonio Police Department responds when an officer says they've been shot at and are in the most fear they've ever been in their entire lives?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained.
So, Your Honor, if I can't cross-examine the witness, it's a
No,
violation. of my
no,
constitution.
let me just stop you right there. Parties ask questions, the court makes its ruling.
And
I made my ruling. The objection has been sustained. Ask your next question.
Are you familiar with when somebody calls 911, it also creates something of a paper trail, correct?
Objection, relevance.
What is the relevance?
Well, Your Honor, he's testified that he's called 911. I'm not sure that that call was preserved.
Then ask the question, and is this the witness to obtain a 911 call? Are you the custodian of records for 911?
No, ma'am.
But he's a detective or he's a sergeant who supervises.
Are you the
detectives.
person who investigated this case?
No, ma'am.
All right, the objection is sustained.
When you talked to Detective Rodriguez, you couldn't tell where the sounds were coming from, correct?
Initially,
Eventually, you figured it out.
rather quickly, yes, I did.
After you got the report from 303.
No, no, sir.
That's what you told Detective Rodriguez.
So, no, when I said that I knew where the shots were coming from was when I made eye contact with him. That's where I was able to verify that what I was hearing and what I was experiencing was coming from that apartment.
That's not what you told Detective Rodriguez.
While explaining to her, no, that's not what I told her.
Okay. So you told her something different than what you just testified, correct?
I was trying to explain to her in totality everything.
I understand.
No, I didn't use those exact words, no.
Or that exact order of events, correct?
Objection, asked and answered.
It hasn't been
Sustained.
answered. It has not been answered.
Sustained.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. I'll pass the
State.
witness.
This may seem like a small matter, but the location where this incident occurred, is it in Bexar County, Texas?
Yes.
Sergeant, there was a point earlier where you wanted to elaborate something. Do you remember what that was?
Ooh, I don't remember the question, the exact question. If it has to do with how I felt in the moment and to explain my fear, I can explain that. So aside
This
from
calls
being-
for a narrative, Your Honor.
All right, that'll be sustained. As to narrative, you may ask your question, answer.
What was the fear that you initially felt?
I thought somebody was trying to hurt my son.
And did that fear dissipate?
No,
Why not?
because I'm his father and it's my job, my duty to protect him.
Did you see any other people on any of the other balconies in that apartment complex on June 3rd of 2022 at approximately 8 p.m.?
There was nobody else.
Did you see anybody behind their windows with the windows open?
I did.
Who was that?
The individual with the pink and blue tie,
But no one else.
no one else.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Defense?
You weren't hurt during this whole thing, were you?
I was not injured.
And Mikey wasn't injured either.
Mikey was not injured.
Um, and he wasn't scared at any point.
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
Okay. No further questions, Judge.
State?
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
Is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Yes, Your Honor.
Subject to recall, Your Honor.
All right, just make sure you're available if either party wishes to recall you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. You may step down.
Okay, thank you.
State, call your next witness.
The state calls Carlos Garcia.
You'll take a seat here, please. Here, take a seat here. All right, can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You can lower your hand if you'll state your name for the record, please.
Carlos Garcia.
All right, state.
Detective Garcia, there's a microphone in front of you. I'm gonna ask you to adjust it so that you can speak into it.
Okay.
Okay. Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Carlos Garcia, and I work with the San Antonio Police Department.
Are you a certified peace officer?
I am
How long have you been with SAPD?
14 years.
And what kind of training did you undergo to become a law enforcement officer?
Well, in my 14 years, went through the academy, like all officers, to become a police officer. After 8 years, I promoted to detective. So I went through their school for detective investigator. I did that for 5 years and I recently promoted to sergeant. So I went through that training as well.
Congratulations. And so to become a detective and a sergeant, are there promotional exams that you have to take?
Yes,
Okay. And so were you employed as a police officer with SAPD on June 4th of 2022?
yes.
And what was your title and assignment on that day?
I was a detective investigator at the time.
And what department were you with?
San Antonio Police.
What unit?
Oh, unit, homicide unit.
And what type of offenses does homicide investigate?
Oh, lots. I know most of the time people think of murders and aggravated assaults with a deadly weapon, but it's everything from that to, at the time, we were investigating harassments, deadly conducts, assaults, simple assaults, and an array of crimes.
Okay. And were you conducting follow-up investigation on SAPD 2211-8362 with Detective Rodriguez on June 4th of 2022?
I was assisting, yes,
Okay. So were you acting as your partner on that day?
yes, assisting investigator.
Okay. And where did you accompany her in her follow-up?
To an apartment complex.
Was that apartment complex located at 1130 Broadway, San Antonio, Texas, 78215?
I believe so. I don't have the address memorized.
Okay, if you don't recall the address, that's fine, but do you recall if it was located in Bear County?
Yes, oh,
Do you recall what side of town it was located on?
that,
And what type of location was it?
an apartment complex, a luxury apartment complex.
Okay, and upon arrival at that apartment complex, what did you and Detective Rodriguez do first?
We contacted the victim. to,
Who was that?
Jesse, is it here?
Okay. And was an interview conducted with him?
Yes.
Okay. And after that, what did you and Detective Rodriguez do next?
So I recall going to the pool area where it was said to have happened, just to look for evidence.
Okay, and was any evidence located at the pool area?
I wasn't, well, all we saw was damage to a window
Okay,
on one of the apartment complexes.
all right. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Did it show you what's been entered into evidence as exhibit number 5? Have you seen that before?
Yes.
Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And can you describe to me what that is?
The shattered glass to a glass door
And
on a balcony.
is that consistent with what you're stating that you saw when you were in the pool area?
Yes.
And so after you're done in the pool area, I guess specifically, there was no evidence located regarding BBs or anything like that in the pool area, correct?
No.
Okay, and so after your examination of the pool area, or while you were down there, do you recall anything out of the ordinary that you observed?
Yes. I guess the apartment sliding door that was in question was open. The sliding door was slightly open, and the curtain would move, open and close.
Okay, and so regarding the call that you were there for, did you have a suspect location as far as apartment number?
Yes.
Okay, and was that apartment 251?
Yes.
Okay, and so after you see that you just described, what did you do?
I regrouped with Detective Rodriguez about how to approach it.
Okay,
Situation.
is it fair to say that that behavior changed the scene to like an active scene at that time?
Yes.
Okay, and so after your regroup, what did you do?
We decided to make contact, go knock on the door, what we call a knock and talk,
Okay, and make contact with who?
the individual
Uh,
residing at the apartment.
At apartment 251?
Yes.
Okay, and once you arrived at the apartment, what happened?
I knocked on the door a few times, announced myself, and the defendant opened the door.
And do you see the defendant, or do you see the individual that opened the door here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
And who is that?
It's a gentleman sitting there.
Can you identify him by an article of clothing?
He's wearing a suit, colorful tie, blue shirt, collared shirt.
Let the record reflect this witness identified the defendant, Christopher Morrison. And so after you make contact with him, did you have any concerns for him?
I did actually. He told me he was in the military, which I was in the military myself. He's a combat veteran, as I am myself. And he began to tell me about what he was feeling at the time.
And based on what was expressed to you, well, in your conversations with him, did you determine that he owned a weapon consistent with the report?
Yes.
And so at that time, what did you decide to do?
Well, we did have a long conversation. A lot of it had to do with how he was feeling at the time. That's kind of, I have a lot of buddies that are also combat veterans, so it's a soft spot in my heart. But he did admit to owning, a weapon that was consistent with what was reported to us. So I felt we had, probable cause for what happened, but also, at the very least, elements for an emergency detention.
Okay. And so ultimately, did you detain him?
Yes,
Okay. And I guess at some point, did you ask him for consent to enter the apartment?
Judge, I'm going to object. May I approach?
Yes.
All right. And so when you ultimately detain him, did you ask for consent to enter the apartment?
I did.
And was that was that initially given to you or no?
No.
Okay, and so based on the investigation that had been conducted up until that time, did you decide to get a search warrant?
yes.
Okay, and can you walk the jury through the process of obtaining a search warrant?
Well, it's common practice that, we can't be at two places at once, so, we typically ask for assistance from someone in the office who has, quick access to typing up a warrant, walking it for us.
Okay, and so in this case, you previously stated you were working with Detective Rodriguez, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so who did you both reach out to provide facts to obtain a search warrant?
Well, for me, if I remember correctly, we always notify our supervisors with what we have
Okay,
at the time. So that's typically who I relay my information to. If it was my case, I would relay it to my supervisor, but in this case, it wasn't my case.
okay. And so while you had the defendant detained, at some point, where were you planning to take him, like from his apartment unit 251?
Downstairs.
Okay. And did you ask him something at that point?
Yeah, I felt bad that he was barefoot, so I asked him if he wanted to grab some shoes.
And initially, what was his answer to you?
He said no.
Okay. And then ultimately, did that answer change?
Yes,
Okay, and so ultimately, with his consent, did you enter the apartment?
yes.
Okay, and once in the apartment, what did you, well, once in the apartment, were the shoes obtained for the defendant?
Yes,
And in fact, you're the one that placed them on his feet, correct?
correct.
Okay. And while you were in the apartment, did you observe a weapon consistent with the report that was made by Jesse Izagita?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach the
Yes.
witness? So I'm going to show you these exhibits 6 and 7 that have been entered into evidence. Have you seen those before?
No, just right now.
Okay, have you seen this, what's depicted in the photo before?
Yes,
And can you tell me what that is?
it's a BB gun
And it was located where?
on the couch
In what apartment?
in that apartment. I'm sorry, I forget the apartment number. but,
I'm sorry, could you speak up?
In the apartment, inside the apartment,
Whose apartment is that?
the defendant's apartment.
And did you observe any projectiles or any pertaining to that BB in the apartment
Projectiles? No.
or any whatever?
Accessories?
What would that type of BB be loaded with?
That particular one, the actual BBs and the CO2 cartridges.
Okay, and were there any CO2 cartridges located in the apartment?
Yes,
And in your training experience, if the CO2 cartridges were loaded into that and fired, would there have been any evidence in the pool area?
Judge, I'm going to object to the speculation.
All right, if you'll lay the foundation.
So are you familiar with firearms in your training experience
yes.
and weapons such as BB guns and airsoft guns?
Some, yes.
Okay, and have you had a chance to examine and view the BB that is depicted in states exhibits number 6 and 7?
Those particular ones, are you talking about
The
the
one
actual?
that was located on scene.
Yes,
Okay, and while you were in the apartment, did you observe something silver in the apartment?
yes.
On the-
Well, Detective Rodriguez called it to my attention.
Okay, and what was that?
CO2 cartridges.
Okay, and is that consistent with something that would go into the BB that's depicted in states exhibit number 6 and 7?
To a BB gun, yes.
Okay, and when that is fired from a BB gun, would that leave evidence in the pool area?
Just the BBs, if we find them. If
But-
we were to have found them.
Okay, but regarding the CO2 cartridge,
No, that stays in the BB gun.
okay, and does it have to be loaded and unloaded or,
Yes,
okay. Um. Was there another victim that was identified, at the scene, like from Jesse Azagita?
his son.
Okay. And ultimately, as a result of your investigation, you decided to emergency detain the defendant, right?
I didn't have the deciding factor, but that was my opinion on the matter, absolutely.
Okay, and was that out of, what made you make that decision?
I felt that he needed help. I felt that he was in a tough place in his life in that particular situation.
And was that out of your, sympathy for him because of the veteran, like y'all were both veterans, or what was?
Absolutely. I have friends that didn't make it through those situations.
Because ultimately, as a result of the investigation, you stated you did have probable cause to arrest him at that point, correct?
Yes,
I pass the witness.
Defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Detective Garcia.
good afternoon, sir.
You've served in the military, correct?
Yes, sir.
When you talked to Chris, you guys made that connection.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your service, sir. And you were a combat vet, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you established that he is also a combat vet.
Yes, sir.
I just have some general questions about detective work. When somebody calls 911, is that call preserved or recorded?
Objection, relevance, and he's not the custodian of record.
All right, you can answer that question.
To my knowledge, they keep it for a certain amount of time.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And whose job is it in a police investigation to make sure that all the evidence is collected?
The lead detective,
And who is that?
Detective Rodriguez.
Uh, do you know if she collected that 911 call?
No, sir.
You,
I
you
don't
know-
know.
You don't know?
No, sir.
Okay. But that would have been her job to do that?
Yes, sir.
When somebody calls 911, does it generate any kind of a paper trail?
Objection, relevant.
Sustained.
If I were trying to determine as a criminal defense attorney if somebody had called 911 or not, is there like a call log or anything like that that's kept by San Antonio Police Department?
Objection, relevant.
Sustained.
So, were you present during the interview of Jesse Izagirre?
Yes, sir.
So you were present during that interview?
Yes.
Uh, and after you guys interviewed Jesse, you went out onto into the pool, correct?
Yes, sir.
Into the pool area. And after that, you went to apartment 251. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
That's where you made contact with Chris.
Yes, sir.
And that was emotional for both of you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that sometimes police use tactics, but that was not a tactic, correct?
No, sir.
It was genuine.
Yes, sir.
You felt that Chris was a threat to himself.
Yes, sir.
You didn't want to leave him alone because you were worried he might hurt himself.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what caused the splashes that Sergeant Izagirre describes?
No,
You don't know what caused those splashes.
not for a certainty, no, sir.
Okay. So it's possible that it was, I guess it's possible that it was a BB, correct?
Yes, sir.
In your recollection, BBs are very small objects, correct?
Yes.
A small object makes a small splash, correct?
I would say that would depend a little bit on the velocity, but yes, sir.
A small object creates a small splash, and you were present, and Sergeant Izagirre describes a splash that goes above his head, correct?
I don't recall exactly how you described it.
Okay. You didn't take Chris to the Bear County Jail when you detained him, correct?
No, sir.
And by you, I mean San Antonio Police Department took him somewhere else, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's because you believed he needed to get help.
Yes, sir.
Did he ever tell you that he wanted to hurt anybody but himself?
No, sir.
Did he ever tell you that he was trying to hurt anybody but himself?
No.
But you were worried that he was going to hurt himself.
Yes, sir.
Worried enough where you initiate an emergency detention isn't something that a police officer or anybody else does lightly, correct?
Correct.
It's you have to be pretty worried about someone.
Yes.
And you were that worried about Chris.
Yes.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. I'll pass the witness.
I have nothing further, Your
All
Honor.
right, is this witness excused?
By the state, yes.
I may need him later, Your Honor.
All right, just make sure you're available if either party wishes to recall you.
Yes,
You may
sir.
step down. State, call your next witness.
Judge, may we approach?
Yes. time. And I'm going to have you all back here at 10. And we will start exactly at 10 because I only have one case tomorrow and I'm specifically going to cut it off at 10. You've heard some evidence in this case. You're not allowed to think about what you've heard outside this courtroom. When I give that instruction, I think it just makes it easier for everybody. You are not allowed to start deliberating. You're not allowed to talk to anybody about what you've heard. If anybody asks you questions, you are allowed, of course, to tell your family members, yes, I have jury duty. I'm on a jury trial. But you're not allowed to discuss anything that you've heard in court. You're not allowed to do any investigation. You're not allowed to watch anything about this case through any type of media. Does everyone understand? You're not allowed to Google any names. I know that people love to Google. You're not allowed to do that. Everything that you're to know about this case is to come from inside this courtroom and nowhere else. Does everyone understand? All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors. I mean, there's
Tomorrow.
two other cases, but we're going to cut it off so that we can take care of this. The other cases that I have for tomorrow, my understanding, they're very short. And then I have a discovery matter with Mr. Curtis, and my understanding on that, it's really going to take less than an hour. So is there anything else?
No, I don't anticipate us from our side to take too much longer.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.